Holly here, welcoming you all to the North Bank podcast, or more specifically to the latest in our series of the North Bank Meets. And the eagle-eyed viewers will have noticed that our next or latest guest is Amanda, aka Gooner Girl 1969, 1/3 of the Same Old Arsenal podcast. Welcome, Amanda, and thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, Holly, thank you so much for the invite. I'm looking forward to what is going to transpire in the next hour.
Well, we're going to learn all about your relationship with Arsenal. So how are you? I think the first thing is, like, we're in the middle of the transfer season. I think it is. Can you call it the transfer season now? Is there a football season and a transfer season?
It's so confusing, isn't it?
Are you? Which camp are you in? Like the I'm getting invested in all these transfer rumours. I'm kind of waiting hands and knees for Romano or Ornstein to drop a next nugget of gold, or are you very much, do you know what, the football season's over, this is time to get on with the rest of my life for 3 months? Which camp are you in?
Really hard, because anyone that does know me knows I don't discuss transfers. I do not discuss them until they've signed. My dad's called me and it's on Sky Sports in the yellow banner. I don't do rumours. I don't throw my toys out if something happens. I've always been like that, because there's no point. No, I think a lot of people on social media do it for clicks and likes anyway, and things like that. What am I like? So I get towards the end of the season and I'm like, oh God, we've got 3 months. And then I go, all right, let's have a couple of weeks off. Then I look forward to the fixtures coming out, which is mid-June. And now we've hit July. I'm looking forward to it because my birthday's the end of July. So obviously that always coincides with sort of the beginning of the season, but normally the friendlies and stuff like that. It goes quick. July always goes quick. So obviously I think our players are now on leave. They deserve it, a lot of them, because they've been playing, obviously. So I'm looking forward to next month, but I'm not desperate. I'm not that camp like, I've got to get back to the Emirates. I like to have July peaceful and then let it all be. The minute my birthday hits, Holly, at the end of July, that's it. The football season begins for me.
Yeah, it's the starting pistol. It's on we go again. But how does that kind of dovetail with the fact that you co-host a podcast? How do you fill the airwaves during these kind of more lean months?
Well, it's funny actually, because the last couple of years I've done a podcast every single week during the summer, and the boys have done different things as well. Chris used to do one in, one out, one bangs, things like that, and stuff like that. This year I've been so lazy. I've not done one. So yesterday I thought to myself, right, next weekend I'm going to do a couple of podcasts. I've got some really good guests that want to come on. Been really lazy, Holly. All of us have. The boys did one a couple of weeks ago. It's just, there's nothing to talk about. There's nothing, is there? We haven't really signed anyone. Players are going, but I think, it's been tough to discuss. So what I did last year is I did a series of shows called What Arsenal Means to Me, which is similar to what you're doing. Get guests on, talk about their love of Arsenal and how they become Arsenal fans. But I've been really lazy this year, but we will be back. I mean, as I said, I'm going to do something next weekend, but come August, we go every week and sometimes twice. So it's nice to have a break. And also, I think people probably are sick of hearing my voice.
No, I wonder how much is it a direct response to the depth of stress we felt as well throughout last season, with the injury, with everything seemed to go against us, and culminating in the Champions League heartbreak in the semi-final. I don't know about you guys, but I was like, I'm ready for this season to end now. Getting motivation for, was it Southampton, last game of the season? I'm like, how are the players doing this? Like, because I'm not on the beach, but I've mentally switched off.
I think we were on the beach for the Premier League, weren't we? But obviously the Champions League was it. It was just incredible. And I'll never forget, I mean, I don't know if you want to go into this season, but I'll talk about Real Madrid another time. But yeah, we were all just focused on the Champions League and hopefully getting second. That was the plan, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we managed the second part of that. The second, unfortunately, not quite over the line in the Champions League yet. growth mindset yet. I have to ask you about the your podcast title, Same Old Arsenal. Who came up with that name and why? Because
God, this is such a long story because it's not our name. Craig, the previous owner, who invited me to come on 3 years ago to have my own shows, which was as scary as AF. Because I'd always been part of a team and I'd never hosted really, just occasionally. I didn't really like hosting. And then I left my previous podcast, had 6 months off, and then he asked me to come and join. And I was like, yeah, okay. So when do we go live? He said, whenever you want. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He said, we'll be your own show. And I was like, oh, wow. So it's his name, Craig. It's the Same Old Arsenal podcast. There was no point changing it or anything.
Yeah.
Then eventually he realised that he wasn't really that much interested anymore. So I then took it over with Chris and James, and we own it now. It's been a couple of years, I think. I don't you know, time flies. I don't know if it was, it's 2.5 years now. And luckily, most of the people that, you know, watched it still carried on watching, because obviously we're a very different crew to what he had previously with his other crew. And we've then, you know, maintained that, plus a lot of people from all our social media and family and friends watch it and stuff. And the good thing about our podcast, if people haven't watched it, is we're not shouty.
Yeah.
We don't shout. We don't always agree, and that's perfectly fine. And sometimes I agree with one of the boys and we don't agree with the other, and they don't agree with me, and it's great. But we try and we're all match going fans. We've all got season tickets. So it's not that we sit at home and we're on social media. We're in the ground. And we're just match going fans that like to talk about the game, but we just don't shout and scream and have massive reactions. And our chat room is fabulous. You know, we love it. And the people that download on like Apple, and I'm shocked that people still want to listen to my voice after all these years of podcasting, but it seems to be going okay.
Well, probably because you don't embrace rage bait and clickbait. It's it's, you know,
totally
angry man
opposite.
shouts at clouds. I'm not interested in that. Because the Same Old Arsenal, that's one of the most triggering chants up and down the country. Same old Arsenal, always cheating. But I love our response to it. So my kind of impression of the title of the podcast is like you were giving the two fingers to every other club support. Like, yeah, same old Arsenal, always winning. That's us.
Yeah, exactly.
So there we go. We'll run with that. Now, I have to then kind of focus on your Twitter bio, and I think this is a first for me. In one of those kind of the greatest where were you moments in Arsenal's history, but I mean probably in club football's history, and I'm not underplaying that. I was a few days away from turning 16. I was bawling my eyes out on a stool in front of the sofa in a sitting room in Ireland on the 26th of May. About 10:30, I don't know what, between 10 and 11 p.m.
About 9:50.
9:50. There you go. Yeah, and it was. I've never knowingly spoken to somebody who was there, so this is a first for me. So
Okay.
I would be just humour me. And you may have told this story umpteen times, but not to me. What was that like? I'm obviously talking about kids. Think the Aguero moment and then multiply it, because this was a moment way above and beyond the Aguero moment. So we had to go to Anfield and win 2-0. Again, otherwise Liverpool were going to be crowned champions. Liverpool hadn't lost by 2 goals in something like 750 years at Anfield. And of course, true Arsenal style, we were 1-0 up going into the 92nd minute and we won. But look, talk me through, like, how did you get a ticket for it? The journey up there, what were the feelings, the expectations like? Steph mentioned that there were players in the away end during the game. That's kind of information has passed me by in the years. Were you aware that there were players in the away end? So I mean, I wasn't. I know that kind of in Arsenal folklore, 250,000 fans were actually at that game, according to them. But what was the whole thing like? What was it like?
Okay, so it's really interesting because on our podcast, the boys take the piss out of me when I I mention it because they go, "Here she goes again." How long's it taken for her to mention? Look, I wrote a blog on it. I've done lots of things over the years on it, and if you're an Arsenal fan, it has to be the best footballing night of your life, whether you're there or not. And fun enough, that's how I gauge Arsenal fans when I meet them, especially my age. I'm a year older than you because I was 17 when I was there. And I often say to them, "What were you doing on the 26th of May?" And if they don't know the 26th of May, I'm like, "You're not really an Arsenal fan." Okay, I don't even know where to begin. As I said, I've written a blog on it. So if anyone wanted to ever, read it, because I'll do it in a nutshell. I was a 17-year-old stroppy teenager who was doing really well in her job in the city in a solicitor's as a like an assistant. Very stroppy. Some would say that's not changed. And we weren't going. We didn't have tickets. On the Monday, my dad got 5 tickets or something like that, 7. I don't know what happened. I don't know how. I think I sort of know, but it's a bit urban myth in my head. And then he couldn't have rung me because we didn't have phones in the. I must have gone home and he said, "We're going to Liverpool on Friday." I said, "What do you mean we're going to Liverpool?" He goes, "We've got tickets." And I was like, "Are you insane? What?" Anyway, so I went into work the next morning and instead of being a little bit gracious about it, I sat down in front of my boss, who I think was West Ham and only about 8, 9 years older than me. And I went to him, "Oh yeah, I've got to have Friday off." Instead of saying, "Oh my God, you've got to please, when you got to have Friday off." And he went, "Well, no, I can't." I said, "Well, then I'll resign." To be honest, I was living at home. I was 17. I'd got another job. I don't care. There's no way I'm not going. This is so
Yes.
true. This is all so true. And he looked at me and he went, "Oh, of course I'll let you go. You get on my nerves like this, right?" We live in Essex, Essex, East London. My dad said, "Right, there's roadworks on this M6 or 56, whatever it was." And I was like, "M6, I think." And he went, "We're leaving at 10. I went, "Don't be off your head, father. It's 4 hours to Liverpool. The game is at 8 o'clock. We're leaving at 10. I said, "Dad, what are we going to do from 2 o'clock at Anfield? What are we going to do?" He said, "We won't be there at 2 o'clock." Anyway, of course, 17-year-old, don't want to get up early, having another strop. Everyone met in our garden, 2 cars, and we went up to Anfield. It took us 6 hours or 7. I've never forgotten the day where I've had to apologise to my dad because beyond right, beyond.
Yes.
We were the only people, and I can say this for fact, apart from Tom, I can't remember his name, Lofty and EastEnders. Oh my God, I can't remember his Tom Watts. We were interviewed by ITV, which was London Weekend Television at the time, outside Anfield, with a million Scousers around us because we were the only Arsenal fans there. I'm not even joking. At 6 o'clock at night, we'd been there, a couple of hours, but I couldn't believe that we were like this. It's like the biggest game in our history. Where is everyone? Well, of course, there's no mobile phones. So
Yeah, of
we just
course.
saw everyone must be stuck in traffic. They were going to take us onto the Anfield pitch and interview us, which would have been the best thing ever, but they didn't because Liverpool didn't allow it for some reason. And then we were interviewed on London Weekend Television with Tom Watt. And then we just all stood there and went, "Well, we better go in the ground, you know." I'm cutting a lot out because we could be here all night, all day. And then we get in, and remember, it's hard to remember everything. It was what? God, 40 odd years ago, nearly.
Yeah.
But I remember getting in, sitting there. Now, in my head, and I still remain this, I'm behind the goal. But Arsenal fans weren't behind the goal. We were to the side. But in my head, I still see Thomas coming through. So it must be just my blurred
Yeah.
memory because I was next to the Liverpool fans. I
Right.
was the
Yes.
seat next to them. So I must have been just there. But
Yeah.
in my head, I remember him coming forward. Um, and then we were looking around going, "There's like 20 people here. Like, kick off soon." And then obviously it got delayed. Then it began to fill up, but not fill up, not dramatically. And I think a lot of people didn't get there till half time. However, I can't remember so much of that because when we kicked off, they came out with bouquets
Yeah.
for the 97. It was 96 at the time. Um, and the guy in front got it and gave it to me. Now, that is my one biggest regret. I just left it under the chair. If I'd have just brought it home, but of course, with all the excitement and everything, I was a young girl at 17. Flowers are not, the most important thing at that moment. And it's one thing that I regret, not having them dried, because that would have been an amazing thing as well. And then kickoff starts. Now, I'm naturally a worrier. I'm just naturally a worrier. But I went there. I just bring you back a sec to the Wimbledon and Derby games. I was on the radio the week before, screaming down the radio like a 17-year-old does, saying, don't know why we bother going to Anfield. We're never going to win. You don't think anyone's going to beat Liverpool at Anfield? No one's won there for 700 years. I was like this. I ranted like, how can they not even beat Derby? I can't remember which one we didn't win. I can't remember. As I said, I'm a menopausal woman.
We drew
Whichever
2-2
one
with
we
Wimbledon.
didn't win, I was talking after it.
We
the
drew
last
2-2.
one.
I think we drew 2-2 with Wimbledon. I think Derby beat us. I don't
Yeah,
think we
so
won
it's
either of
Derby.
them.
So I was on the phone ranting like a lunatic. So I get to Liverpool thinking, this will be a nice day out. This would be nice. I've never been to Anfield. I've heard so much about Anfield. Obviously there'd been the most tragic tragedy the month before. And, we went and paid our respects. So to me, I was just going to come and see the best football team in the land play us, because there was no way we were going to win. So when we score in the first half, and Alan Smith, and obviously it's, second half, isn't it?
52 minutes.
Down our end. Yeah. Because I remember it being down our end. We all went mental, of course, but I'm going, well, it's 1-0. We're not going to get another one, and they're not going to not score. So in my head, I'm going, oh, it's good to score at Anfield. I'm honestly like this because I couldn't face the failure of it. We weren't going to win. My dad, who is the biggest negative person on the planet, said we were going to win, which is the most bizarre thing I've ever heard from his mouth. We call him D&G, doom and gloom. So it was really weird. So then they're surrounding the referee. And I'm like, remember, there's no VAR or anything like that. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake, they're going to get it chalked off. They're going to force him to do it. Like, oh, you know what Liverpool are like? I was like having a whole strop with a bloke in front of me. And he gave it. And I was like, oh, this is good. We only need to get one more and stop them scoring. Like, that's going to happen. So I'm sitting there, right, with no expectations, right? Obviously, the game plays on. Thomas comes through the first time and misses. So, and this is on my life, Holly. I went like this. Dad, shall we leave? I said, because you know how bad the traffic is, right? I said, we're going to be, all I was worried about was getting back, because I was due out, I think, that night, the next day or whatever it was. It's like, it took us 6 hours. I'm like this. And he looked at me and went, we never leave a game early. Oh, whatever.
Wise words.
Wise. Beyond. And I was like, well, he's just missed it. We're not going to get another chance, are we? They'll probably go and score and it'll be 1-1. We never leave a game early, Amanda. That was it. And then he comes charging through. I cannot explain how mental, and I cannot put into words what went on. I think I was thrown everywhere. We were just, I remember I was a lot younger, and generally the crowd were only a little bit older than me. There wasn't like 70-year-olds in front of me or anything. We went beyond, and that was the moment I started to plutz. That means stress. That was the moment I went,
because you had it.
My heart, I was
lose.
like,
yeah.
I don't know what to do. I don't know how to cope. You're 17.
You had no idea how long was left.
No idea. But my dad always had a stopwatch. And then we don't know what time it is. We don't know what's going on. How the hell have we scored 2 against Liverpool? How are we going to stop them scoring? Is it a minute? Is it 5 minutes? What is? So we're all now, but we're still celebrating. We're all going mental when the whistle's kicked off for the next kickoff. And I don't know how I've coped. They have aged me over these years, this club, I can't tell you. But that night, it brings tears to my eyes. So what happened was, obviously, the whistle goes and we're all going, we've just won the league at Anfield. Oh, I can't put into words. And anyone that was there will say the same thing. And I think LWT, ITV, whatever they were called, cut it off about 10 minutes later. Because if this had been Sky, had been going on for 4 hours, we would have had the best post-match celebrations. Now, we're still there for ages, obviously. And I have to be honest, Liverpool fans clapped us. and were very, very, what's that word, like dignified, and you know, what they'd been through and everything. And they were fabulous to us. I can't deny that when we came out the ground, everything. But there's so many little stories, like I don't remember walking out. I remember coming home and we took the wrong way, and we ended up going more up north, and then we had to come back down again. We ended up, now I don't know this, I don't remember this at all, but we did. We ended up at a service station and everyone was doing the conga around it. Apparently I was involved. I swear to you, I don't remember, Holly, because my dad mentioned it and I said, I wasn't there. He said, of course you were. We were all there. We were doing the conga around the petrol station or something. I was like, oh, okay, great. When we hit the M25, we saw the coach. I saw Nigel Winterburn holding it, bouncing up and down in the coach. And they went off to Southgate, and obviously we carried on to Essex. We didn't know where they were going because we would have gone. And they ended up in Winners in a bar in Southgate or something like that. I've seen the footage from that. So we saw them pull up, and I was like, there's the coach. Anyway, we get home, don't remember sleeping, God knows, but then we spent 2 days at Highbury. The next morning, we went, I've got a picture of me. I look so awful in red and white with a flag, and we went to Highbury and spent 2 days there. We came back and then went back on the Sunday. And there's many more stories over the years, like when I met Alan Smith and I couldn't speak, but he knew who I was from Twitter. And he said, hello, Gooner girl. And I was like, how do you know me? How do you know me? I was like, oh my God, like, I need to talk to you. Did you touch that ball? And like, we've talked. I've interviewed him for another fan channel out of the blue. It wasn't supposed to happen. And all of a sudden I was given the mic. I'm not really a great host. I'm a better guest. I've interviewed him. That's on YouTube about the whole thing.
Did he touch it?
Yes. And he says to me every time, he signed his book to me saying, I did touch it, Amanda. Yes. It's the thing we have on Twitter. You may see it occasionally. He's been on podcasts with me over the years. We often talk about, obviously, nearer the time. We do it around May time. He's a great guy, Alan. And then obviously the late Kevin Campbell, who was my friend. He was in the stand, apparently. I didn't know, below me. I had no idea. I didn't know him then. We met in social media many years later. Then obviously we podcasted together for years. And we often speak about it. And obviously he spoke from his point, being part of the squad and on the pitch and with the pictures, and God rest his soul. So over the years, it's always been part of my life. But the boys take the mickey out of me. I'm not allowed to talk about it.
That's just jealousy.
Well, one's in their 20s, one is in their 30s, and they went, here she goes again, about 89. Yeah. I think we've heard it, Amanda, like this. I do it sometimes just to wind them up.
Well, but, it's like in this modern era, you'd be confused for thinking that football started with Sky TV.
Yeah, and also, you know what's interesting? What I love, though, Holly, is like you told me, I love to know where everyone was. I love the fact that people, like my husband was on a black and white TV at uni, screaming the place down. I love to hear everybody else's stories because, yes, I was there. But what was going on at Highbury and surrounding areas looked incredible, and I'd love to have been there as well, obviously. And obviously the film Fever Pitch, we try and watch every May. I do try and watch it every May the 26th because it's still the most incredible film because of his feeling, and we're all the same.
Yeah,
when you support a football club, it doesn't matter what club. Look, we take the mickey, but Tottenham haven't been through that, but City have. And I argue with my City friends that the Aguero moment is not a patch on it. No. You beat QPR at home. It's not the same. Whether you beat Man United to the title, I get that part. But we went away to a fortress. So don't even start me on what was more exciting or,
where the team we had to beat were going to win the league. It was winner takes all. Well, not quite. It was us. We had to win by 2 goals. They could have lost the game by a goal and won the league.
It's so much to it. And I just say to them, look, you were the second best. We're the first. That's the end of it. I'm not even discussing it.
Yeah, it's not a conversation. Yeah.
We had half the ground missing, like for Arsenal fans, till God knows what time. People taking 7-8 hours to get there. People running down the M6, but people doing what they had to do to get to the ground. But my dad left at 10 o'clock from Essex. What lunatic does that? But that lunatic was right. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, thank you so much. You said you're getting emotional. I get emotional. I'm hiding it well behind the glare of the glasses. Because there's no. of course, I would love to have been there, but I wasn't. I still enjoyed that. That's my go-to moment. It's like my family have never seen me cry since that day. That was the only day. It's Arsenal did that to me, and I'm forever, eternally grateful to them for that. I guess. Right, I was going to ask you, but it's a bit negative after that. I won't. I'll work it in a bit later. So look, I know what you kind of know what you're going to say in response to this question. So, like, where did it all begin for you? I mean, you were 17 in 1989. So, just rewind a few years. Why Arsenal, especially from
Um,
Essex?
yeah, we're not far from the ground, only about 40 minutes. Well, now I'm 40 minutes. I used to be like half an hour from it. Um, well, for people that don't know, my dad is obsessed. He is the biggest Arsenal fan I've ever met in my life in so many ways that when he had to have a heart, he had heart issues, he made sure as soon as he met the doctor, his first words were, "You better not be a Tottenham fan." So, but that's his life. He walks around his local area with one part of Arsenal memorabilia on him. If it's a cap, a scarf, if it's winter, if it's a t-shirt, if it's summer, everyone knows him. So that's been running since 46. He was born 56, probably about 60s, early 60s. His dad, my grandfather, was a Chelsea fan and took him to see Chelsea Arsenal, and that was it. 1960, something like that. And then that's it. And still to this day, thank God, touch wood. His first questions are to me, have you heard of we're signing anyone? I mean, he's 70. God, I've got to get this right. 79. Um, Obsessed. He has, honestly, obsessed. I can't tell the stories over the years. I mean, I have him on our podcast like once a year. I don't even know half the stories he says. The things that happened in the 60s and
Fantastic.
70s when he broke down on the way to Leicester and he jumped on the players' coach or something. I didn't even know these things. But wherever we were, one of the funniest stories was when David Platt joined us. And my dad thinks he can speak Italian. And we met David Platt in a car park at Chelsea, honestly, and he goes start speaking Italian. My dad can say one sentence, and David Platt starts talking fluent Italian. So many stories, so many, but obsessed. And then he had to stop going 7, 8 years ago. He can't do the steps. It's too much for him. He started to, a little bit unwell and stuff. So he's the biggest armchair supporter, and he always very proud of us, the podcast. He's very proud of me supporting. He wants that to continue. I've been going, so I'm 55. I've been going 51 years. It's a
That's
long
yeah.
time.
You don't remember your first game?
No. And
No.
it's annoying me, but I was only
Yeah.
4. He used to throw me over the turnstile at Highbury and we sat on his lap. It's very different in those days.
Very.
No, I don't remember my first game, and he doesn't. So somewhere in line, he said I think this is an urban myth, Holly, but he says that I could have recited the double team in 1971. I was 3 years old. What's he talking about? But apparently I recited the double team. 3 or 4 I was. I was
Listen,
like, whatever, Dad.
it's not for you to question it.
No, he tells everyone.
The oracle speaks. That's it. It's true.
Oh yeah, it's my dad.
Yeah, I don't remember my first game was in the 70s, but I don't remember it. And it, like you said, it does annoy me when people can recount their first game at Highbury. I remember crowd trouble outside.
Yeah.
I remember being on the pitch for a North London derby because it all kicked off behind us, and they lifted all the kids over
did they?
because there were no fences, just over the little kind of railing in front of the
little
would have
barrier
been
thing.
Yeah, so I remember that, but I don't remember.
So my first sort of memories are like Malcolm McDonald and Liam Brady. And I think that's mid-70s, which would be right, 6, 7, 8 years of age. But no, I was there at 4. So we don't have a choice. But weirdly, he married a Tottenham fan. My whole family are Tottenham. Yep. Every single
Wow.
cousin, apart from my cousins that I go to football with, are Tottenham. The whole family. Yeah, my mum came from Tottenham. My grandfather was one of the first season ticket holders at Tottenham. And my dad used to go with him to Tottenham one week and Arsenal to the next, which is what they used to do. And Yeah,
it
I never
could
met my
it
grandfather, so he probably wasn't that disappointed in me because he never met me, but I think he would have been. Yeah,
so
no,
Tottenham was the potential alternative path
no,
for you.
never,
Can you
no,
imagine that?
no, no. I suppose if my dad would, no, he wouldn't have been because I didn't meet my grandfather. My mum's not into football at all.
Right.
She can't
Okay.
stand football, but she'll cheer for Arsenal, obviously. But
Yeah.
yeah, big Tottenham family.
That's interesting because I grew up in Holloway, North London, and what I used to go to. My best friend was a Spurs fan, and we didn't have season tickets. I don't know when season tickets started. To be fair, but we would go to the Spurs game if Spurs were playing at home. Him and his dad would take me to the
Yeah,
Spurs games, and then we'd go to the Arsenal games with my uncle alternate weekends because you could. There was no, you didn't have to book a ticket 2 months in advance and pay through
yeah,
the
very
nose for it. It's just
different.
a very different time. Okay, so it was never any doubt you were going to be Arsenal. And God, can you imagine if that had gone another way and it was Spurs or maybe Chelsea if you said
Yeah,
when your
but
grandparent.
even so, I gave birth to his first grandson. As he walks into the hospital, he went, "Oh, Dave Seaman's gone to City." Not congratulations. Let me see my grandchild.
But
Honestly, this is the sort of man. I love him. He's the
yeah,
best.
you
He is
wouldn't
the
have it
best.
any other. You wouldn't have it
But
any
there's a
other way
million
because
things that,
that's funny.
when he does speeches and oh, it's hilarious. But anyway,
That's brilliant. He sounds like a proper character.
oh God, he is.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. Okay, so from that period, then, so the period that you remember, the mid 70s on, perhaps when you were 6 or 7, are there any players that stand out for you at that time? You mentioned Liam Brady, obviously like a wand of a left foot. Any other players maybe going into the 80s that kind of stood out for you and as your first kind of I don't know what you say, like kind of not
Yeah,
connection
heroes. I
with,
know
I
what you
guess.
mean.
Yeah, yeah.
So 78, 79, and 80, all those finals, we only won one of them. I remember crying at school because everyone took the mickey out of me because there wasn't that many Arsenal. It was more Tottenham, West Ham,
Yeah.
and Liverpool because obviously you know what it's like when a team's doing well. And I was like, well, it doesn't matter if we lost that because we got this to play, and then we won 79, which was incredible. That night, my dad was celebrating with the players. See what I mean? There's so many stories. You'll probably want to get my dad on. He's got a million stories. So 79 was great, but I wasn't there. I watched it at home with my little flag in the lounge. I was only 10. And then 80 broke my heart because it was West Ham. Um,
Oh,
and I just
yeah.
started high school. So that would have been May. So I started high school in September because that was 1980. And then obviously Spurs won. Oh, it was awful during the 80 to 85 when I was at school because Spurs were better than us and were winning things. But my first love was when I went. Got another little story. My first live final was when we beat Liverpool. Was it 2-1 or 2-0? I can't remember.
It,
I never know.
it was Charlie Nicholas goals in the
Yeah,
League Cup. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
2-1.
we had the best seats. I was on the stairs where the players came up. Don't ask me how we
No
got
way.
these tickets. I was here, and that's where he was there. I was on the seat. So when Arsenal players came up, I was able to touch every single one, and I gave Charlie Nicholas my hat and scarf. So the old pictures of him running around Wembley is with
No,
my hat and scarf. Yeah. Um,
that's superb.
and of course, when you've gone to Wembley for the first time ever and you get these seats, you think, oh, I'm always going to get these seats. Well, since then, I've had the worst seats ever at Wembley, all over the place,
That
high
that
up. I've never had that. So for
that
me, Charlie
trade-off's
Nick.
not bad.
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, obviously we were there for Luton the year later up in the gods, and that was a nightmare night day. But when they walk past me, you don't realise how lucky you are. I'm never going to have that again. And so Charlie Nicholas was my first, like, oh, I was in love with him. I just loved him. I loved everything about him. And of course, I was only, what was I? 19? Where am I? What year? No,
Eight,
I
eight,
was only
eight.
16, 17. So it was a bit like a crush, an Arsenal crush was Charlie Nicholas. And then he goes and wins us the cup. And I've never seen anything live win us a cup. So it was my first ever final. And then my heroes obviously were obviously Tony Adams,
Oh, yeah,
George Graham coming in 86, I think, or whenever he
yeah.
started, yeah, 86. Sorry, I'm not very good with dates. you know, Campbell, Merson, it's all of them. It's all of them. I mean, Adams was my favourite, but my actual, I would say, I'd have to say, all-time hero of the 15, 20 years then was Ian Wright. Was Ian Wright, and there's
Yeah.
never been any doubt. And every time I've met him, he knows. I've interviewed him, I've spoken to him. I'm just in awe every time because I think that man, what he only did for our club, what he's done for our club since, what he's done
Continues
for
to,
women's
yeah.
football
Yeah.
since.
Yeah.
I can't. I just frigging love him because he talks and acts like a fan, and he loves Arsenal to pieces, and he criticises them when they need to be criticised. He's just like us, and I think a lot of the younger people don't appreciate what he's done, or what he gave to this club. But obviously, then you move on to the Henri Bergkamp. I mean, Bergkamp, one of the best players I've ever seen to grace the pitch. Henri, Pires. Oh my God, I was in love with Pires. I loved Parla. I've met Parla. Freddie Ljungberg, I met a couple of years ago, and I just was like in awe. I met Edu outside the Etihad once when everyone was against Edu and Arteta at the very beginning, early on. I loved Edu. There's too many. I can't sit here, but Ian Wright, if I had to, and then obviously Kev, because I podcasted with him for years, and friends. We were friends, and when I came to Manchester to watch a game, we'd go out for dinner, and the man was an absolutely incredible human as well. What you see is what you got with Kevin. He just was no different. He was wonderful to everybody, and he generally was. And Everton love him, adore him. Forest fans, everybody. So
That's the thing about him. The way the fans of all the clubs he played for respected him and loved him. That's rare. That's
very rare. Very
Not
rare. What he brought to football and humanity. Well, so over the years, I've been very lucky. Like Smith, I mean, you forget. I mean, Gilberto, what he only brought to us, he was an unsung hero, you know. And then the Sol Campbell issue was very strange. Having him there was the most bizarre banter we could ever have with Tottenham fans, and we still do, which is great. He walked across the Seven Sisters Road to win trophies, and he won trophies, and then to win in Spurs' backyard. So sorry, so I'm going on to all different things, but
No, that's fine.
we've had such amazing players. I mean, Alexis Sanchez, how could you have not loved him? What he did at the end, fair enough, but oh my God, what a player. And I never forget, I was at West Ham away. I had to sit in West Ham when Alexis scored 4 goals. We won 4-0 at West Ham. Can you imagine sitting there not being able to celebrate?
I used to teach in that in their manor, and I've been to several games, Arsenal West Ham games in the West Ham with the West Ham crowd. I've had to leave every single one of those games on about 65 minutes because we were winning all of them, and me and my mate were incapable or unwilling to control ourselves.
Holly, but you know what?
I'm only 5'7", not the environment for me to be.
I did everything right. I did everything. I took the screensaver off my phone. I had my nails were black. I didn't have anything red on. I learned the Bubbles song, so I stood up and sung the Bubbles song. At half time, I did not go on Twitter because at those stages we were on Twitter. I didn't do anything, right? And when Sanchez kept scoring, I was going, oh, for God's sake, he scored again. Like, oh, for God's sake. And at the very end of the match, 2 things happened. The bloke behind me tapped me on my shoulder when we were clapping West Ham off, and he went, "You're Arsenal, aren't you?" I did everything. He couldn't have seen anything on my phone.
The smile,
I didn't have any red rings on. I think. And then I got away with it all, getting out of West Ham. And as I came down the stairs, this young kid shouts, "Oh my God, that's Amanda from Arsenal Fan TV." Because at that stage, I was doing stuff on Arsenal Fan TV very early on in their when they started up. And I went like this, like,
out of the mouths of babes.
No. You've got the wrong person. And I got out because you know how hard it is to get out anyway. And I was like, oh my God. And he kept, no, it is you. And I was like, I thought I'd got away with everything. I thought I was even singing the Bubble song and, doing what I needed to do to watch the game and be safe. But
you survived. You lived to tell the tale.
Yeah.
Just because you had to queue up for like well over an hour, nearly 2 hours to get on the tube from West Ham as
horrific.
Well. Yeah, hated it. Although I did like it as as an away ground, though. When I was with the away support, I loved it because they don't like us there, and that's good. I remember I was at the game where Dennis Bergkamp had enough of Lomas chopping it. I used to turn around and just like spread his nose across his face. There's Dennis Bergkamp, as you said, the most naturally gifted player I've ever seen in the flesh. Like, what a genius with the ball. But what's a bit of an edge to him as well.
Oh yeah, he did have an edge.
What about the current iteration of Arsenal then? So go back 5 years, Arteta took over. I'm personally, I've always been on board with Arteta. I think he's like the transformation with the club is incredible that he's undergone. Yes, I'm frustrated. So talk us through, like, what are your kind of observations on Arteta's tenure so far, and looking ahead maybe to next season? Do you think it's win or bust for Arteta next season, or is it still like you'll reserve judgment until the end of the season to see how it's played out?
Right. So for anyone that knows me knows that I'm 100% Arteta in. I've loved him since day one. I love the passion. I love everything about him. I really do. And I trust him. And I trust in his judgment. Yes, has he got subs wrong at times? Of course. In our opinions of fans, we don't know what the hell's going on behind the scenes. We all think we know. Why don't you bring him on at 60 minutes? Why don't you do him at 70 minutes? Why have you left him on? Why have you done that? Why is he... But we don't know anything. And I learned quite a bit about 10 years ago when I used to speak to a coach, nothing to do with Arsenal, and he'd explain things to me. And I was like, I never saw it that way. He said, because in training they have plans and it doesn't get changed. The idea is the plan, but obviously if you have injuries and things like that, then you have to change. You have to go to plan B. So I've always been very pro Arteta, probably too much. And I don't believe it's win or bust next year. I was around when Fergie took years and years and years to win anything at United. And if they'd have got rid of him, they wouldn't have had the treble. I'm not one of those impatient fans, but I'm older like you. We're a bit older. We're not of the Arsene Wenger era. He wasn't our first manager. So
we remember.
We remember what the 80s and the 70s were like, where we were slow hand claps at Highbury, when
20,
I had my legs
fans
over the front because half the crowd wasn't there. And I absolutely adore him. Now, but I can see things. Obviously, I'm not, rose-tinted glasses the whole time. I never understood why he brought in Raya, because I thought Ramsdale was great. And obviously, he was proved right. He was in that respect. But I used to sit on a podcast and go, I don't understand it. I didn't think we would be looking at a goalkeeper. Yeah. But I wasn't like, oh my God, how could he do that? I was like really confused. And I said, well, let's see what plays out. I always tell people that when he signs players and you're not happy with that player, why don't you just give him a chance? And I said it about Havertz, and I say it about all the players. Just because they play for a club and they're not that great doesn't mean they're not going to be great somewhere else. It's like you could leave a job and go to another job and thrive because the support there is completely different to your old job. A different environment. But people don't get that, especially on our podcast with people in the chat room like, can't believe he's got rid of Ramsdale. Well, no, I was a bit confused, if I'm honest, and I did say that. Yeah. I'm very much in for him. I'm so distraught at this season. I'm so distraught at the injuries. I can't even talk about how much I hate the people behind VAR, the PGMOL, what's gone on. Now, as I said, I've got a lot of non-Arsenal fans that I'm friends with, Liverpool, City, Tottenham, loads. They all think it's poor me, poor Arsenal all the time. And I said, listen, everyone gets bad decisions. I'm not sitting here, they don't, but it's ruining football. When I've got to sit at the Emirates for 5 minutes while two incompetents behind a screen can't tell me whether that toenail's offside or not, or whether that's part of play, or whether he handballed it, or whether it's a penalty. Because I'm telling you, if it's not clear and obvious, then you give what the referee's given. If it's a penalty, penalties are very divisive because there's no fact on penalty. The only fact is whether it's inside or out. Your opinion is whether a penalty should be given. Me and the boys often disagree about penalties, so I understand that point. But we don't need 5 minutes of sitting there looking at a screen going, you're ruining this game. Do I want VAR? Not really. I've never wanted it. But
it spoils
the
one moment that you the release, the goal
Oh,
scored.
don't.
Whereas
That's changed. That's changed.
VAR time, I quickly glanced at the linesman. If the flag wasn't up,
Yeah.
you go for it, your celebration, because you know it's not going to be chalked off. Whereas now you can't. There's been a couple of goals at the Emirates where I've reined in my celebration and been really frustrated with myself when the goal started. I thought, well, why did I do that? It's just like I didn't choose to. It just like
It's ruined it because the first initial reaction should be jumping out your seat going ballistic.
that's why
My
you're there.
first initial reaction is jumping out my seat going ballistic, but going, oh God, we've got to wait for VAR.
How are they going
So it's
to
a joint.
Yeah.
And it's ruined it. Now, what do I know? I know referees need help. I do understand that. I'm thinking that I only want it for actual facts, over the line, off for a hand, off for, on the side, corners, throw-ins. I just want facts. You are ruining this game, and the fact that you can be offside by this now, that's not what offside's about. Look, offside's offside, but it's interpreted in such a way that even I don't understand it anymore. To me, you're offside. You're offside. What they're trying to do, and I don't like all this Americanization of, making a game. I don't like American football. I'm not really into that. It bores me, all the stop starts anyway. We're not used to it in our football, are we? We just play for 90 minutes.
Have you seen the Club World Cup and the introducing the players one at a time? I haven't watched any of it, but they introduce the players onto the pitch one at a time. Like
no, and also, I mean, look, I am 55, 56 in a few weeks, and I still am quite very much young at heart. But when I go to the Emirates, I don't want loud blasting music before kickoff. I want a bit of North London Forever. I want a bit of good old Arsenal. Half time, it's horrific. You can't talk to anyone because they're blasting it. And it's not because I'm old. I just would like half time to be something on the screen, maybe Gunnosaurus doing something, the penalty things.
The marching band.
Marching band. That used to be funny. Anything they're trying to Americanize it, sport, and it doesn't work for me. But then a lot of the young people love it and say, oh, you're so old. It's not because I'm old. I just like football to be football.
Well, do you remember, and I'm sure you will, because this is one of my abiding memories as a kid, walking to midweek games in particular. You could hear the crowds chanting before you could see the stadium from inside the ground.
Yeah.
And now it's like you say, it's just this loud music, and that's all. There's no atmosphere.
No, there isn't. They've killed the atmosphere by playing this loud music, and everyone complains around me, old and young, like we can't talk. You can't hear him anyway. And I've actually contacted the DJ on Twitter, but he doesn't respond back, saying just turn it down. So we can have a conversation with people that we want to talk about. Do you think he should make a sub? Why is he not playing well? Maybe move him over. But we don't have that chance. It's just so loud.
So it's not because we're old.
No.
It's because we're right.
Yeah, I like that.
So what are your kind of I don't know hopes for this season? What would qualify like as? I mean, one of the questions that we ask our guests is it the journey or the destination? Now, I kind of know it's about the experiences that you have along the way, and great, we all want to win. So what are your kind of hopes for next season? What would qualify as a success?
So the season before last, I loved it. The journey was incredible. The football was incredible. Everything was incredible. We just missed out. It is what it is. We just weren't strong enough at the end with the injuries and things. This season, the journey hasn't been as exciting, and there's been times where I've sat there and thought, I'm not enjoying this. But if it does give us a cup at the end, then we'll live with that. It needs to be about both, because we're paying a lot of money for our season tickets. People pay a lot of money for TV subscriptions and things like that. People that don't go or not able to go, we just want enjoyment. We want to see the flow of football. Unfortunately, that got paid, didn't it? Put to pay because of our injuries, one after the other. And I used to, no word of a lie, my husband will back me up on this. Every time Saka went down, I'd be like, every time. And I mean for months on end, because he was the star boy, still is the star boy, but every time. The day he went down, my husband went, all right, calm down, know what you're going to do. I went, oh, whatever. And obviously that was that. And I knew it was bad. And if you lose Saka and Erdegaard and Havertz, I'm sorry, it's just, it's the the fate was not
Yeah,
for us.
there were mitigating circumstances
That's
why
the
we
word,
didn't.
mitigating circumstances.
Why?
But
Yeah,
when we all turned up for Real Madrid at home, I was not of the thought that we were going to do anything. I was hoping 0-0 so we could take it to the Bernabeu and maybe, but that was a 1-1. So I went to that game like I did with Liverpool, very relaxed, like in Anfield. We're not going to do anything. It's Real Madrid. We don't, it's not going to happen. The best football night I've ever had at the Emirates. I could not believe, I mean, where Declan took the two free kicks from is in my eye line because I'm East Stand upper. It was in my eye line. And I looked at the bloke next to me and I went, what's he taking it for? We never do anything from free kicks. Famous last words. Here we go
both
again.
things true.
I was like, oh, okay, maybe he's doing something different, like lob it over the top for some. I was like this, or whatever he was going to do. Well, the first one, I know everyone's second is the favourite, but the first one was my favourite. I went mental. The second one, we even went more mental because it was so bizarre. The same thing happened that he did it twice. Now, I'm friendly with his younger years coach, and actually he was doing some training sessions with him last week before he went abroad. So Anthony Gow, which is Tony Gow's son. So you'll remember him from West Ham.
Yeah.
Anthony's been on our show. The day we signed Declan Rice, he came on the next day, and my words to him were, and I'd never met this guy before. I knew his dad, but I'd never met him. And I went, right, what are we getting for 105 million quid? And he told me what we were getting. And he wasn't wrong. And he's been on a couple of times, actually going to come on soon. And I saw last week on his socials that he was training with Declan. They're still very good friends. And I said to him, you need to tell him how much we love him beyond love. And it's beyond. Forget Real Madrid, we love him anyway. But that was just the most incredible evening. So that happens and you're like, Jesus Christ, we're going to end up in the semi-final. But then you got to worry because then you go, it's Arsenal.
Yeah.
You could go to the Bernabeu.
4-0 incoming, yeah.
2 early goals, and then we'll collapse. The crowd will be behind them. You're like this. You're like all week going, this is possible. We could be playing PSG, and the rest is history. So we have had some great times this season, but it's not been the best journey.
Yeah, I mean, Steph went to the Bernabeu, and what a performance from us out there. And I loved the fact, and this is why I will back Arteta, because we've got we've got quality, but we've got a resilience. But the fact that we weren't satisfied, we knew we were through in the going into stoppage time. We knew we're through. But no, we wanted to win the game itself, and Martinelli's sprint through. That was the determination there. Let's win this game. We're not drawing in the Bernabeu. We're going to win here, beat them home and away. And I just think if we had a little bit more luck with injuries and with certain decisions, and with squad management as well, and squad building, because we were screaming out for another striker, even before last summer. And we just felt we were a little bit short. We were a Havertz injury away from being in trouble after the transfer window in January closed. So there were several, as I said, these mitigating circumstances. So I have got confidence and hope going into next season.
Well, we'll have to wait and see because the whole planet and every Arsenal fan knows we need a striker. Obviously, there's loads of rumours going on at the moment. I think they'll probably announce Zubimendi this week. And I think that I just trust him. But if he doesn't get a striker or he doesn't get what we need on the right or whatever, it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough.
Down.
And then you ask me if we don't win anything this season, would I want him out? I can't answer that now. And it's probably going to be a no anyway because I want to give him more time. And obviously now the coach has gone. We've got a new coach coming in. And I'm not all about change so quickly. It took me quite a while to be Wenger out. It took me quite a while to
Yeah.
be Emery out. Um, and I think it will take me quite a while to be Arteta out for sure.
I think if we didn't sign a striker and then didn't win anything in
It'd be tough.
next year, I think that'd be tough. And that might not be his fault because it's not
I
him that's
know.
buying the strikers. He was very vocal, which was really unusual. He was very
Yeah.
vocal in January about, no, we need a striker, and none came in. So
And
it's,
I think Holly as well, he's a winner. He's got that winning
yes,
attitude. So he was probably disappointed, and we could see that, which was rare that we
yeah.
see a manager do that. And so, well, we needed he didn't come in as like, God, Arteta looks like he's got the ump with the ball, let alone anything else. When normally a manager wouldn't even talk about it. So that's the other things that I do like about him.
Yeah, because just taking that on a little bit further, if we didn't, and I can't imagine a world in which we don't get a striker this summer. I can't imagine that's going to happen. We will get a striker this summer, he
I
says.
hope
I'm
so.
trying to convince myself here. But if we weren't to get a striker and not win anything, then he could walk. It might not be an issue of, because
Yeah, I never really
if he
thought of
feels
that.
that, like that frustration that you alluded to in January, where he was clearly championing for a striker and we didn't get one, to then not get one in the
But
summer.
Holly, do you not think he wants to win? And I don't think Arsenal look, when we were growing up, Arsenal weren't a massive club. We know that, and we've come out of nowhere from the mid '80s because of Anfield and winning the cups, and then obviously the doubles in '91, and then obviously Wenger. We became a massive global club. But when we were growing up, Arsenal were quite average. We weren't the Evertons, we weren't the Liverpool, we weren't the Uniteds. Forest were big. We
Yeah.
weren't because we weren't winning anything. We were just a club in London. To be fair, Tottenham had more of the history. I mean, we won the double in '71, they won the double in '61. So on par with maybe Tottenham, but then obviously we overtook all that. So I think he's going to want to win before he heads off home to Spain to take over one of the big boys. He's not ready for that yet. I think he's got quite a few more years with us. And obviously, look, if he ends up 15th and nothing, then you may be right. He may say, my time's up. I can't do any more than I've done. We nearly run the league twice, but it's not happened. I don't know. Depends
Yeah,
what
so
happens in the next month for who we buy.
yeah, we'll have this conversation again on the 1st of September, but we've got such a difficult opening set of fixtures that you really
I know.
want your, I don't know, we're flying out to Singapore on the 19th of July for the pre-season tour of Asia.
Yeah,
You really want your new players on that plane
yeah, of course.
just to bed them in. But yeah,
Look,
I like.
you know what happens? Things like no one knew about David Raya. There was no chat. There's going to be things that we don't know is going on. I know there was this Chelsea mention yesterday. What was his name?
Madwakey,
That's it. I called him
not Noni
Madueke.
Madwakey, but he's a right. Yeah, I mean,
And
yeah,
everyone's throwing their toys out. I don't
yeah,
even know who he is. I'm not even interested. I don't watch Chelsea. So I only get interested in players when they come to us. And I just feel that, again, I'll say it again. If an Arsenal player if a player signs for us, give him a chance. Give
yeah,
him 4 or 5 months to bed in. Just give him a chance. Henri, if
yeah.
honestly, if Henri if we'd have been on social media with Henri,
Waste of
oh
money.
wow,
Yeah. And Bergkamp took 7 games to score his first
yep,
goal or something, It's like, you thank God there was no social media back then because these players would have been put. But look, we say it all the time. If you're going to get angry at certain things, like signing Kepa for £5 million as a backup, that's a brilliant deal. That is
absolutely.
brilliant. Like, if you're getting angry, I think I put it out. If you're getting angry about that, you're just an angry person.
But I
It's
wonder if these people just do it for attention, because I obviously follow quite a few people and lots of people follow me. And I see different things that are retweeted or BlueSky or Threads, wherever. And obviously then on Instagram, on football posts. And I just think you must have a little bit of a quiet life that you need to come on and go, how dare he sign another Chelsea retailer? I'm like sitting there going, maybe it'd be good for us. See, this is where my positive head comes in. And look, I was wrong. The only time I've been wrong really was Raheem Sterling. I said the same thing. Give him a chance. Give him a chance. But he brought us nothing.
No,
So
absolutely, yeah.
that didn't work. But like if you're an employer of a company, you could have 10 people and 8 people could work and 2 are just awful. That's
Well,
life, isn't it?
we've had a really high success rate in our transfer dealings under Arteta. I think we've done. I think you've mentioned Raheem Sterling. Absolutely. Under Arteta, we've had players maybe like congo and Tavares, but they've been kind of minimal purchases. They were like kind of maybe Fabio Vieira might be the only big money signing that we've made that hasn't worked.
Yeah.
So I and again I take those odds or those numbers all day long. I think our business so far has been good. We've got Zubimendi, we've got Norgard, not officially yet, and Kepa. There's the Mosquera, the centre back cover for Saliba. I think that's sensible additions to the squad. But we view it through the prism of not having got the striker in or the left winger in yet. But there's still 2 months to go. We will.
I know, but you're right. We want them on the plane though. So
yes,
we're a little bit impatient because we wanted someone in January, well, the last summer, and then January we couldn't get. And, you're hoping for that one big signing, aren't you? You're hoping for that. Everyone's
ceiling
talking about
raiser.
Sesko or Gyökeres or, just someone, because we've got the football. We've got the defence. We've
everything
got the
else.
Football. I'm hoping Gabriel comes back all guns blazing because
I love
miss
him.
Gabriel. We
I
all
love him.
don't we? I think he was actually better than Saliba the whole season.
Yeah.
I've said this. I argued with one Arsenal fan and one non-Arsenal fan about this. They weren't listening to what I was saying. I said this season he's been better than Saliba.
He's and don't forget this summer so far we've tied him down to the best years of his career and Miles Lewis-Skelly. So we've extended 2 of the 4 contracts. We've obviously got Saka and Saliba to go with Waneri also. But I'm confident that we'll get those done as well because we are now a destination club. Players want to come to us. And the players we've got have faith in Arteta. Would Gabriel be signing on an extension if he didn't believe in Arteta and what this club was doing? No, and Gabriel's like, well, he's our rock at the back. He's just something else. We love anyone who celebrates a tackle like that. I'm on board with. It's really good. Oh look, a few little quick either or.
Yeah.
No. Explainers at all, right? Okay, you're not allowed. One word answers here.
Okay.
Red or yellow?
Red.
Home or away?
Home.
Journey or destination?
Destination.
Tactics or passion?
Tactics.
Pub or social media?
Social media.
Watch on TV or in the ground?
In the ground.
Monday Night Football or match of the day?
Match of the day.
I know the answer to this one. VAR in or VAR out?
Out.
Highbury or the Emirates?
Highbury.
Yeah. Now, last one. Champions League or Premier League?
Easy. Champions League. Don't even
no, really?
Why do you think? We've never won it. Why do we need to win the league again? We've won it. Champions League.
Okay.
And then I can then go off happy and say I've been because I was at the last Champions League final. The only ever away European game I've ever done. I don't go away in Europe.
Well, you're not allowed to go again.
I went to the Stade de France and I cried when I left and I couldn't talk to anyone. I was so depressed on the plane home. But that was the most amazing experience. So Champions League all day long. And I argue with everyone about this. We've never won it. We have to win it. And that's the end. And then no one can sing Champions of Europe. You'll never sing that.
Yeah, I know. Look, I take that, and the players. I think the players would choose the Champions League over the Premier League as well. Interestingly, I'm just more Premier League because just the Champions League's a bit of luck as well and more of a cup competition. But anyway, that's fine. I have been to 3 European finals and we have lost them all, so I'm not allowed abroad again either. So it's all my fault. It's all my fault. Before we sign off, just to remind us again where we can catch up with you on a weekly basis during the season.
Okay, so Same Old Arsenal podcast, YouTube, if you want to come and subscribe with me, Chris and James. We go post game. Sometimes we have guests on. We just subscribe, press the bell, then you'll get notified. We're on Apple, Spotify, and all that side as well. Twitter, Gooner Girl 1969, but I'm on that on Threads, on BlueSky, Instagram. Come say hello. It's lovely. I love going on other people's pods and chatting to them as well, because I don't get a chance to do anything like this, obviously, on our podcast. Yeah, and that's it. And I mean, and I sign off all the time saying always Arsenal, because it is always Arsenal.
Indeed. And thank you so much. We will link to all of those places in the description as well. And thank you so much. It's been an absolute delight. And I'm so thrilled I've had my first actual conversation with somebody who was there in 1989. Thank you so much. And here's always Arsenal. Here's to the new season as well. Thank you very much. And thank you for listening and watching. And we'll catch you again later in a few days' time. Bye-bye. Cheerio.
The North Bank, an Arsenal podcast. Subscribe, rate and review on your app, and find us on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok at North Bank Pod. Email hello@thenorthbankafc.com and check out our website, thenorthbankafc.com. Produced by The Podcast Company.